The condition of many of Nigeria's correctional centers leaves a lot to be desired. Nigeria currently has over 74,000 inmates and is currently ranked the 27th country with the highest number of prisoners globally. According to World Prison Brief, inmates face many challenges like prison congestion, violence, poor infrastructure, limited educational and vocational training programs, and many others. In many cases, many of those housed in some of these centers are awaiting trial, a blight on the Nigerian justice system. Some non-governmental organizations are leading advocacy for reforms and have launched several initiatives that will help improve the quality of life for inmates. Well, joining us in the studio to shed more light on this is founder, Anchor Heritage Initiative, Bidemi Oladipupo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
You have been engaged in the process of helping inmates, and all of it for quite some time now. Let's look at what a correctional center is like. Paint us a vivid picture of what you see when you engage these persons, when you go to these correctional centers.
Well, so basically, we're talking about the inmates itself now, or
the correctional center itself, the situation, the condition, everything.
Okay. So, really, we've been in this space for like 6 years now.
Right.
And I will say what I met 2017 when we started this initiative, it's what we have presently now is much better than what we met in 2017. There are deliberate steps now to better things happening in the correctional centers there. If you won't mind, I'll just give a quick instance of the figures of the general population of the inmates that you just mentioned. As at 23rd of October, yes, the numbers stood at 81,550. But we have a waiting trial of like 56,000 as at October. Over the years that I've worked in this sector, I've seen the numbers roll between 71 to 73% of our waiting trial inmates. But right now we have maybe like a percentage of like 68. So we are practically getting much into the fact that this decongestion has to happen. Facilities like Ikoyi, like Kirikiri Medium, where we have new blocks coming up. So, it's not to say that the congestion is already taken care of. The prisons are still definitely congested. But what I'm trying to say is that we're moving towards something that really, at the end of the day, we should have a changed narrative.
Well, correctional facilities are actually meant to, we changed from using the word prison to correctional centers. But then the question people will be asking is, what is correctional about them? Because the longer they stay there, the more they tend to also, experience what is called a recidivism.
Yes.
And it's just a concept, for you not being people who have the tendency to recommit the crime which they were incarcerated for in the first place. So the longer they stay, the more they tend to, go back to this, this criminal act. Do you see this, changing over time? Although you said, well, it has changed from what you meant in 2017, but it does appear like people will say, yeah, I will commit this crime. The worst I will experience is go to prison, and they'll release me at the end of the day, and I'll continue my lifestyle.
Well, so again, I would say the correctional service idea is gaining momentum. NGOs are working in this space. Churches are being deliberate in this space. And even the correctional facility itself, the NCOS, is also making practical steps. But most times, it's always like the public doesn't even have an idea of what is going on in this prison space. And that's why we just feel it's a complete dumping ground. For instance, now there are National Open University programs going on in the prisons. People can actually do their primary school learning, secondary school learning, university learning. There are programs like coding going on, you understand? So there are many initiatives that also go in. And at the end of the day, it behoves on the human being Does he actually want to stay corrected or not? I mean, it's like someone that goes to church every Sunday. It doesn't mean he has given his life or he's actually a changed person.
Or transformed.
But the truth of the matter is you go into an average Kirikiri medium custodial center. Right. The inmates there that we see every week and we mingle with will tell me, sir, it is your choice. It is either you are ready to change or you are not ready to change. And that behoves on the human being. But deliberate efforts are being made to make sure that they are corrected. And various initiatives are going on in the prisons, and some also powered by Anchor Heritage.
And that's where we'll come to you now. Anchor Heritage has been doing this for 6 years, like you mentioned earlier. Talk to us, what were the gaps Anchor Heritage saw that they decided to bridge, and how has that been going?
Okay, so actually the first gap we saw when we started this assignment was the fact that there are unjustly incarcerated people in the correctional centers, prisons then. There are unjustly incarcerated people, there are indigent people that couldn't afford the services of a lawyer. And that's why we actually started then. And as a date now, by the grace of God, we have a record of like 279 inmates that have been released by the organization so far. Part of what we now saw when we started the legal aid, because it made us relate with the inmates and have interaction with them. So we also understood that what will happen after they leave the prison. And that's what made us start our empowerment scheme. Our empowerment scheme was done in all the prisons in the Southwest and the North Central. North Central, I'm talking about Kwara, Kogi. And we were able to do that as a result because we know these inmates will come back into the society. When they come back into the society, like you talked about recidivism, what will they be doing? So we did a project of teach the inmates and beautify the prisons to, enable them to have skills, repaint the correctional centers, and we also likened it to a therapy for their minds. Deliberate therapy, we left them with souvenirs of a ruler. So they painted the prison walls, and that has been done in almost 17 correctional centers. So it gave them an idea that they could be better people if they are also deliberate with their actions when they regain freedom. Part of what we also saw is the gap in the welfare of inmates, welfare of staff, it's also very necessary because these are the people keeping the inmates. That's one service that I always wonder how they keep the inmates without weapons. Maybe those ones outside, So the welfare of inmates, we brought in some initiatives as well. We tried to work with organizations that partnered with us, especially during the COVID. Everybody forgot that someone will come into the court and meet a judge, and the judge will finally meet his family. So we were there making sure that they were well taken care of. So that is on the aspect of the welfare. We're talking about the welfare to inmates, welfare to staff. We are also trying to see a changed narrative of where the staffs will also be appreciated. Peradventure, maybe to the level of their other paramilitary establishments, so that they will be encouraged for that humane conditions that the NCS Act of 2019 specifically talked about. Another gap that we realized in the prison space is what brought about our aftercare initiative. Our aftercare initiative is also powered since 2019, and it's based on the fact that we know that when these people leave, they have two worlds to contend with. Yeah. It's either they're going to the real world or they're going back to that world of crime. But if we are not taking deliberate acts to make sure that that stigmatization is taken off them and they are given something to stand on, then we will lose them. And that's why we gave birth to the Aftercare Initiative of Anchor Heritage. And by God's grace, we have almost 49 ex-mates doing very well in various professions of what they've chosen to do now. And lastly, the gap we saw was the inflow of ages 21 to 35 in the correctional centers. It is worrisome.
Absolutely.
Very worrisome. Absolutely. And that gave birth to our last initiative that we just commissioned on the 29th of April in Kirikiri Medium. Many youngsters are going in, abandoning their career, abandoning their education. And so we were deliberate about that, and we launched the first IT hub in the Kirikiri Medium Custodial Center. It was commissioned by the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service and represented by the Minister of the Interior then, Dr. Shuaib Bolgore was the PAMSEC.